Chapter 17 Summer in the Obelian Empire was a time of migration for the nobility. One by one, high-ranking aristocrats departed from the imperial city, retreating to their territories to oversee their estates. The grand palaces and lavish halls that once buzzed with courtly intrigue were now silent, stripped of their usual grandeur. In the heart of the Emerald Palace, Princess Athanasia sat at her desk, her cheek resting against her hand, lips pressed in a pout. Anna Green, her secretary and perhaps the only peer she could converse with in a way that didn't feel like walking on eggshells, had left for the summer holiday. Without her, the palace felt unbearably dull. Athanasia glanced at the stack of documents that Anna had left neatly arranged before her departure, but she had little interest in reading them. A long, drawn-out sigh escaped her lips. She was left with the usual faces: Felix, Lillian, the palace servants, and of course, her father. While she had grown accustomed to their company, there was something suffocating about the stillness. No visiting nobles meant no gossip, no distractions, nothing to break the monotony. Her fingers tapped idly against the polished wood of her desk. How many years had she been confined to these walls? This grand, gilded palace, with its sprawling gardens and endless corridors, was still a cage. She had never set foot beyond the imperial city, never walked among the people in the capital, never seen the world beyond the towering gates. She had long fantasized about it. The bustling streets, the lively markets, the scent of fresh bread and flowers in the air, she imagined it all in vivid detail. How wonderful it must be to simply walk down a street without guards shadowing your every step, to see the world as an ordinary person and not as the emperor's cherished daughter. But that was all it was. A fantasy. She knew better than to ask. The mere suggestion of stepping beyond the palace walls would send Felix into a fit, and Lillian into a panic. And her father, well, she doubted he would even entertain the idea. Another sigh. She let her gaze drift to the window, where the summer sun bathed the imperial gardens in golden light. The capital lay just beyond the horizon, full of life and freedom she had never known. But for now, all she could do was dream. Athanasia let out another exaggerated sigh, watching the sunlight dance over the garden paths. The palace was beautiful, grand beyond imagination, but at this moment, it felt more like a gilded prison. Then, a voice interrupted her sulking. "Why are you sulking?" She turned her head to find Lucas standing lazily by the window, his usual smirk in place. He looked amused, as if catching her in the act of some grand mischief. "Everyone's out for the summer holidays, and I'm stuck here," she huffed, crossing her arms. "I wish I could see the capital city that lies beyond this wall." Her gaze drifted wistfully to the world outside. Lucas tilted his head. "Well then, if that's what you want," before she could react, he snapped his fingers. In an instant, the grand halls of the Emerald Palace vanished, replaced by the lively hum of a bustling street. Athanasia blinked in shock. The air was thick with the scent of freshly baked bread, roasting meat, and the faint, lingering sweetness of honeyed pastries. Merchants called out their wares, children ran past laughing, and the city buzzed with energy. Lucas let out a low chuckle beside her. "You know, if you wanted to go outside, all you had to do was ask me, right?" "That's not, I'm not allowed," she stammered, before he grabbed her wrist and dragged her forward. "Then it's a good thing no one will recognize you," he teased. As they moved through the busy market, Athanasia caught a glimpse of her reflection in a shop window. She gasped. Her long golden hair had turned a deep chestnut brown, and her usual sapphire blue eyes were now a striking ruby red, just like Lucas's. Her elaborate gown had changed as well, replaced by a simple yet elegant dress of light linen, something a merchant's daughter might wear. She turned to Lucas in shock. What did you do?" Lucas grinned. "A little illusion magic. You didn't think I'd let you wander around looking like the imperial princess, did you?" Athanasia's lips parted in awe. This was really happening. She was outside the palace, in the heart of the city, and no one knew who she was. "Come on, princess," Lucas said, pulling her along. "Time to explore." The streets were alive with vendors eager to sell their goods. Fresh bread, still warm from the oven, called a baker, his voice booming over the crowd. Crisp on the outside, soft on the inside. You won't find better anywhere else. A fruit vendor waved a ripe peach in the air. Sweet as honey. One bite, and you'll swear you've tasted the summer sun itself. Nearby, a woman in brightly colored scarves spread an array of glittering trinkets on a cloth. Handmade jewelry. Charms for luck and love. A bracelet for the young lady? She asked, flashing a smile at Athanasia. The smell of sizzling meat filled the air as a skewer vendor flipped juicy cuts over an open flame. Grilled lamb, seasoned to perfection. A meal fit for a noble. Athanasia's eyes sparkled as she took it all in. The sights, the sounds, the tantalizing aromas, it was more than she had ever imagined. See? Lucas leaned in close, his voice smug. The city isn't as scary as the palace makes it sound. Athanasia turned to him, eyes wide with excitement. Lucas, she breathed, this is amazing. And for the first time in a long while, Athanasia felt free. Athanasia's mouth watered as the aroma of grilled meat, fresh bread, and sweet pastries filled the air. She had never smelled anything so delicious before. The palace had luxurious meals, of course, but there was something about the sizzling skewers and the warm scent of spices that made her stomach growl. Lucas, ever observant, smirked at her reaction. Without a word, he handed a few coins to a nearby street vendor and returned with 2 kebabs, the meat glistening with juices. Try it, he said, holding one out to her. It's good. Athanasia took a hesitant bite, her eyes widening in delight as the rich flavors burst on her tongue. The slight smokiness, the tender meat, the perfect seasoning, it was heavenly. This is incredible, she exclaimed, between bites. Why don't we have food like this in the palace? Lucas chuckled, watching her with amusement. Because the palace prefers fancy food, with names too long to pronounce. This, he gestured toward the bustling stalls around them, is real food. As they wandered through the city, Athanasia dragged Lucas to every shop that caught her interest. The pet shop. The moment they passed by a shop filled with animal noises, Athanasia came to a halt. Lucas. Look at this place. Inside, cages lined the walls, filled with various creatures, birds with vibrant feathers, kittens curled up in tiny baskets, and even a small fox napping in the corner. A scruffy-looking shopkeeper perked up when they entered. Welcome, welcome. Looking for a pet, miss? We have the finest selection in the city. Athanasia pressed her hands against a glass enclosure, watching a tiny rabbit with soft white fur twitch its nose. Lucas, she whispered in awe, it's so cute. Lucas crossed his arms, unimpressed. It's a rabbit. She turned to him, frowning. Have you no heart? Look at its little ears. Its tiny nose. Its fluffy tail. Lucas sighed. If you start crying over a rabbit, I swear. Athanasia ignored him, watching the animals for a few more moments, before finally tearing herself away. Maybe next time, she muttered wistfully. Lucas smirked. What, going to hide it in the palace? She huffed. I would find a way. The bookstore next, they found themselves inside a small bookstore, its walls lined with towering wooden shelves filled with old tomes and freshly bound novels. The scent of ink and parchment filled the air. Athanasia ran her fingers over the spines of the books, her eyes gleaming. So many books, so many stories. Lucas, standing beside her, quirked an eyebrow. Don't you already have an entire library in the palace? It's different, she insisted, picking up a novel and flipping through the pages. These books have been touched by real people. They've been read and loved. The books in the palace are just there. Lucas rolled his eyes. You're sentimental over books now? She ignored him, grabbing a copy of a fairy tale collection and hugging it to her chest. I want this one. Lucas gave her a knowing smirk. You're worse than a child in a candy store. Athanasia stuck out her tongue. And you're a grumpy old man. Lucas simply ruffled her hair, much to her annoyance, before leading her back outside. The boutique, their last stop, was a small boutique with mannequins dressed in elegant gowns displayed in the windows. The moment Athanasia spotted it, she gasped. "Lucas! Look at those dresses!" He sighed as she dragged him inside. The shop was filled with fabrics of every color, delicate silks, soft velvets, and shimmering satins. Dresses of all styles hung on display, from simple day dresses to extravagant ball gowns. A well-dressed seamstress approached them. "Welcome. Are you looking for something special, miss?" Athanasia hesitated, knowing she couldn't reveal her true identity. "Oh, just looking." Lucas leaned against a nearby pillar, watching her with an amused expression as she admired every detail of the dresses. "You act like you don't have closets filled with dresses more expensive than this," he commented. "It's different," she replied, running her fingers over the lace of a soft blue gown. "Those dresses were picked for me. This feels like freedom." Lucas blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity in her voice. After a moment, he shrugged. "Well, if you want one, I can always steal it for you." "Lucas," she gasped, scandalized. He smirked. "Kidding. Mostly." She sighed and put the dress back. "Maybe next time." As they left the boutique, Athanasia turned to him with a bright smile. "Today was amazing." Lucas simply smirked. "See? I told you the outside world wasn't so bad." Athanasia twirled in the middle of the street, arms outstretched, as the setting sun cast a golden glow over the city. For the first time in her life, she felt truly alive. Like, comment and subscribe to be notified for updates in the series.